Yeah, we're Swifties.
Are you Swifties?
Yeah.
Well, we're Swifties too, for the record, even though...
I saw that the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm coming on and I'm representing my Swiftie fan base.
Spray good, baby. What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 26 of the Spread Good podcast. My name is Brodi Nicholas, back with the main man, Mr. Celebrate Life. How you doing?
Doing good. Celebrating life, spreading good every day. But today, really excited for our guest.
Yes, today we have Tiffany Sumner, business owner, special needs mom, and mental health advocate. So much to uncover today, but first off, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Of course.
Yeah.
Orange County local as well.
Yes, Newport native.
Love it. Love it. So with that being said, give us a little background on you being here from Orange County and how you got here today.
Yeah, so born and raised in Newport Beach. I've got two kiddos, 9 and 12. One has special needs, my son Ford. And my background, I went to school here and did my undergraduate here. And basically my background consists of marketing, advertising, sales, and social media services. And I'm a mental health advocate, special needs advocate. And you guys reached out, and I'm just happy to be here to spread awareness and bring, more attention to things that we need to talk about more.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So your son Ford has special needs. What diagnosis does he have?
So he has nonverbal autism. He was diagnosed at 2. He's 9 now, so we've been on this journey for a bit. Yeah.
So he's the younger,
Yeah.
the older brother or sister?
He's his sister's 12.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
So their father unfortunately passed away during COVID to suicide. So I've been on this journey alone for quite a bit. But I just it's an interesting area of parenting that, there's a lot of attention that's brought to the high functioning of the spectrum. And so I'm trying to bring a voice to the low functioning that doesn't really get as much attention. And, they give so much praise to the high functioning. And, I think we're really suffering in resources and things that we really need as parents and support groups. So that's kind of one of the reasons I'm here today, too. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a brother with Down syndrome. He's lower functioning.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get the attention that the higher functioning Down syndrome people get.
Yeah.
But he, I believe a couple of years ago, he was diagnosed as being on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Before, when he was a child, no one thought you can have autism and Down syndrome.
Yeah.
But he's kind of on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy when you think about, when people think about Down syndrome awareness, they think about the people who are working, the people who are pretty normal, but my brother's on the lower end. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Well, comorbidities is a commonality between special needs. So, the one thing I find really interesting is that they can test for, the chromosomes for Down syndrome, mm-hmm. although there's no testing to know whether or not your child is going to have autism or not. And in fact, you can be born super healthy and have no signs up until the age of 2. My son hit every milestone, and then at 2 years old, he just stopped, acknowledging his name, and he had no social skills. And so at that point, we had him diagnosed by a neurologist. But, there's a thing called regression. And so in that kind of aspect with regression, it can get pretty serious. Ours got violent, and we had to, unfortunately, move him out into a crisis group home recently to create a safe environment for not only like myself, but my daughter and for him. So, and it's like a 2-person job. And so there's such a lack of resources in California and actually nationwide that I'm hoping at some point to go up and like talk with policymakers and lawmakers on how we can increase the average wage for our caretakers, because they have such a hard job And there's such a necessity, and in order for not only the child, but for the families to thrive and be safe, and, to learn those daily living skills, and to learn how to, cope, or learning the coping mechanisms you need, especially when you're nonverbal and you're using a tablet to communicate. So, it's hard because, like, I'm a business owner. I started HAUS of Media, and as a single mother, and also running a business, and then also trying to raise two children, and when their dad's deceased, it's like you have to kind of think outside the box, and like really reach out to and utilize your support system and everything you can. And I started my business back, what was it, like 4 years ago? And it was to support other women in business and entrepreneurship, because it's just a passion of mine to support other women. I knew a lot of women who grew like huge businesses from nothing. And so in the industry I was in, it was pretty male dominated, and not to sound sexist in any way, but I felt like there was a minimal, highlight of a lot of the women who were just hustlers and just working hard, and single mothers, and just, I wanted to get out there and, really kind of emphasize the support of women, and to have their businesses thrive. And one way is branding and marketing, and to help their businesses, not to establish them per se, but to help them kind of level up. And so, trying to balance that with the special needs aspect and single motherhood, it's just to even be alive, to be honest, when it gets so severe, it's like a gift. So fortunately, I had a great support system, and doctors, and the resources like TACA. Have you heard of TACA? No. Nonprofit organization in Orange County. They're for autism, and so they have a lot of resources, and so yeah, it's been a scary ride. But I remember having a couple conversations with other parents when I was in the thick of it, and really having to recognize, like, okay, this is where I'm at. What can I do, not just to help myself, but when we get through this, help other people? And so it's just a very lonely world, and it's like you're kind of trapped in like a prison when you're alone, and you have like such intolerable situations. Like, my son was breaking all the windows and the TVs and like hurting himself. We were in the emergency room like every other week, and I was covered in severe injuries myself. And so for me, it was just like, okay, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to use my story as a platform to help bring awareness to special needs, families, and then what I can do to maybe help them in the long run. I've been fortunate to have a great run in business, and have connections and networks, and work with like athletes and celebrities and personalities. But the problem is like, this is kind of what my life is consumed of now, and how I want to kind of use this, this personal, story of mine, not just, business is one thing, but to like help other, families like heal, and, and aside from my mental health advocacy, bringing awareness also to like suicide, this has just played a huge part of my life. And so I'm really happy to be here today, you guys, and talk about it.
It's amazing. We can feel the passion, and it's wild hearing your story from like when you had Ford. Essentially, everything was normal. Yeah. Right. And then, what is that like at age 2? Did you interact with any children with autism at that point, or you had no idea what this could be?
Autism didn't even run in our family. And, after talking with doctors and everything, we kind of know like there's 4 areas of how autism can be derived, like genetically, and there's other things. But I knew nothing about autism. So stepping into this world where it was like the unknown, there's like no roadmap. And so you kind of walk into this blindly, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? So then first thing I did was reach out to the regional center. They get you lined up with different resources, and then you have to reach out to, I found the local organization, TACA, and they can give you, information on, the next steps, like medical, interventions and different things that you can do to utilize, and just also kind of bringing support groups together, going to events. That's like where I found the most help. It's because I was so alone. And then you know, I think my family and God, I'm a Christian, and it's like my faith also is like a huge part of how I got through this, other than the support in my family. But it's just utilizing those resources that really helped. Yeah.
So the community really helped you get through everything. What is TACA? Like what is
Talk
their
about
mission?
curing autism. So they're a nonprofit in Orange County, and I just attended the first their gala this last year. I'm getting more involved, but they're a wonderful organization. Lacer Ackerman is the head of it, and so yeah, it's just bringing more awareness and bringing more support and resources. And I think that's so important that families don't really they're in this like really isolated world, and they don't know to like reach out to organizations and support groups like that. So they're there to help, and you learn a lot of patience, right? And so one thing I'm proud of that people usually would say over the last like 3 years is that no matter my circumstance, I was always positive. And so I'm like, how can I make this situation, how can I have a positive, what can I pull out of this to, not just to help myself, but other people. So, that's where I think God kind of put me here to use my story to, to help others. So, it's just, there was like a point where I was so scared that I wasn't going to make it. Like, I didn't think I was going to live another year. And I remember like praying about it. And I, like, after all the work I did, and I was talking to, every kind of support, social services represented, like everyone, of how to help my son. It's just, I don't know, I pulled myself out of it, but it's just a scary world. But I'm super vulnerable, and I want to share my story because a lot of people are scared to show weaknesses and to come out. And I just want to be an example, and not just an advocate. I want to be like out there showing like this was how hard it was, and like this is where I'm going with it. And then there is light at the end of the tunnel. So
That's awesome. That's really inspiring. It's kind of like our guest yesterday, just talking about, being afraid of what the future holds, and being positive and coming out of it better, hopefully. So yeah, that's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing all of that.
And I feel like, again, I didn't know half of the things that you'd gone through before you came on, obviously, that you shared. So thank you for being so open.
yeah.
But with every single hit, like I'm playing these scenarios in my mind while you're speaking, and this is like really heavy stuff. And not only are you pulling yourself out and getting back on top and helping other people, but like you're waking up for your kids every day because I'm assuming they look up to you, right? And they're looking for strength and for guidance. And yeah, that is just really commendable, how you stand up every single day. And how is your daughter doing through all of this?
She's a lot better. We're in like, a vigorous, trauma therapy. And that's another thing, like I want to help promote. It's like people really need to reach out to their, not just support what we talked about, but doctors, psychiatry. I fully am an advocate for medicine to help you. If you're battling depression, anxiety, we have a suicide hotline, but we also have, doctors out there that can help you. I like Eastern Western medicine, but there's got to be a line where you're like, I'm in a really bad place, and I really need to utilize, talking with somebody and utilizing the medicine we have, available. And I'm an advocate for it, my daughter and I, and honestly, it kind of helped me survive and get through it. I mean, talk therapy, the medical route, but there is help out there. And so, when my former husband took his life during COVID, and I'm battling, being a special needs mother and everything, it really brought perspective on a lot of things in my life and how, valuable and delicate our life is, but also that people can be suffering on such like significant level. Like you're like, oh my God, like I had no idea it was that bad. And it just kind of ignited something in me. I'm like, you know what, like, there's NAMI in Orange County, and they help promote, suicide awareness and mental health, and just trying to come out there and and share with people that they can be at their worst and they can just take a step back from ego and acknowledge that they need help. And so a lot of people have a hard time doing that, and they try and wrestle it on their own. But what I have found is like, you know, a lot of people, and then they fall. I mean, there's mental health, there's addictions, there's all kinds of things that people can numb their internal issues with. But it's just there's resources out there, and so you know, a lot of them just feel really alone, and that's what I have come to acknowledge.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
I think what's good about nowadays is there's a lot of resources. Growing up with a Down syndrome brother, there was never any therapy for like me as a child.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that your daughter is going through that and getting help, because it's not easy. I'm sure she's dealing with a lot, and I'm glad that you're also, you know, open to her getting that help. And yeah, that's cool.
I think society doesn't shine light on the siblings and the rest of the parent and the actual like family unit that's affected. Luckily, I have an incredible parents and my sister, and honestly, not a lot of people have supportive family members. I mean, that's been a blessing in my life. I would be lost without them, but you know, the toll that it takes on the mental health of the other children in the house, and you know, my parents having to see me suffer and the kids, it's just like they have had to go to therapy. And so you know, you're living in fight or flight every day, and it's like, you know, trauma, and there's not enough hands on deck. There's not enough resources. There's not enough caretakers to go around. And so I found myself locked in my house on the weekends when he's not in school. We couldn't leave the house. He didn't even want to leave the room. And we had like 60 holes in my drywall, and in a matter of months, because he was regressing so severely, we were on psychiatric holds, 911. We were in the back of a ambulance like every other week because he lost control. He was attacking me. And I don't know if you've seen like images on my Instagram, but I mean, it's pretty severe. So now my focus, you know, we have him in a safe place. And so my daughter, we're focusing on her healing. And so, you know, we're in talk therapy, and then, like I said, other doctors kind of walking her through it, but also spending that quality time. I lost with her for so many years. And taking back, you know, my role involved with her as her mother. And at 12 years old, I mean, her dad died at 9. She was forced to grow up so fast overnight. And so, I mean, I give it to her. She's like my biggest hero. So,
I hope she's doing better. I hope you guys are spending that quality time and healing together, because, there's a lot that you guys have gone through.
Yeah, she wants to be a psychologist one day. It's really sweet. Yeah, she wants to take her story and help other people. So I found that really, really tremendously, you know, touching. And she was seeing Shannon Curry. She's a friend of mine. She's really close to my former husband, and she's on the Johnny Depp trial. She represented Johnny, the psychologist in the trial. But anyways, she's an incredible doctor, and she was there to help my daughter walk through, you know, the steps for the last couple of years. And then, you know, now we're seeing somebody else in her clinic. But, you know, it's just so important to, like, you know, and there's resources out there. I mean, even if you don't have the health insurance, there's, you know, resources. I think Medi-Cal, Cal Optima in California, you have to get out there and research, and there are people out there to help. But so, yeah.
I think it's really important, because I'll be honest, even for me, it's hard to think about getting help if I need it or when I need it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of listeners can relate to that, is we try to handle things all on our own because that's kind of all we know. Mm-hmm. But if you just put a little bit of intention into accepting help,
yes,
as you did, it can go on to you helping more people.
Yeah,
which is really important.
You know, it's funny. It's not funny, but there's certain people in the public eye that I know have children who have special needs kids, and they try and hide it for image or whatnot. And I think it's interesting to me, because I'm like an open book. I'm like, I post a lot on my social media. And so I just recently went private not that long ago because I was in a trial to get services. I can't say much right now because we're appealing it in federal court. But basically, I've posted so much in my vulnerable states in my life, and I got a lot of followers at one point, especially after my son was diagnosed, and I just try and like present a platform where mothers and other parents don't feel so alone. Be like, you know what, I had it all together. I've done this, and this in my life, but we're dealing with this situation. And, it's a commonality and like bringing the familiarity and making people not feel so alone and be like, wow, like Tiffany had this beautiful family, and then her former husband killed himself, and then her son's trying to kill himself, and he was strangling me in the car. It's like wild story. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it out there. So if you're like, oh shit, like, I'm not alone. Like this, and this has happened to me, or, it's just, I don't know. I think it's just God using me to just, get out there. And at some point I'm like writing a book right now, and it won't be ready for a little while because my story's not over yet. But there's a lot of things I have, like I'm working on right now. And so, slowly just trying to, it'd be great to start a nonprofit. You guys, I hand it off to you. I mean, it's a lot of work.
It is.
But just using that gift to help other people is so like admirable. And this is a huge passion of mine, helping other people. So it's another reason I wanted to come on here. I'm like, spread good. I'm like, positivity. And, that's one thing that I've been told, like, no matter your circumstance, like, you got to be happy and wake up and knowing every day, like, I'm alive, I'm breathing, like, I'm healthy. I'm here to kind of share the significance of my life with other people to just try and, promote, good. And that's so important because we have so much in the world that's just so sad, right? I mean, it's just so important to, spread that positive message.
Yeah, and as being a mental health advocate, you're part of the KIND campaign?
Yeah, so the KIND campaign is a nationally recognized nonprofit. And so what they do is they bring awareness to the negative impact of the long-term effects of girl-on-girl bullying. And so there's a girl named Molly and Lauren who started this, and I just got involved this last year, and then my son got super sick, and I had to shift my focus on him and getting him better. But basically, they bring awareness to schools and assemblies for young girls because there's a huge bullying, and now with there's cyberbullying now.
Media, yeah.
It's very sad, and like there's a lot of suicides with kids nowadays. It's absolutely tragic. And so it brings this curriculum to schools, and it promotes a super positive, warm message. And it's just really touching. So I wanted to get involved with her. And Lauren, her husband's Aaron Paul, he was on Breaking Bad. And they're just really two incredible girls. And I went through and became an ambassador with them to try and bring the message to schools. And so that's my next step too, to help kids and young girls in Orange County, and to really set an example. And so, to be a good person, be, to other girls and yourself, and to, respect yourself and just spread good, positive. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm always just so moved by people that take hardship, and you've taken multiple hardships and just multiplied it into spreading good, which is, I think it's just so important. And I don't know if everybody can do that, but when people make the choice to try, which you've done, and obviously you're continuing to spread this message and help so many people on social media, I just think it's so cool.
Yeah, well, it's really hard to do. And so that's why I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to try and promote it. So
what was it like, that first moment 7 years ago, and then with what happened during COVID and all these different things, like that moment where you're like, I'm going to be vulnerable on social media? Like, was there somebody that inspired you? Was it just something that clicked with you, with your faith? Like, what made you press record and post that first moment?
I felt so alone, and I had no roadmap. Like I said, there's no roadmap to crisis and all of these things that you're given in life. And I felt when I saw someone's story out there, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm not alone. And sharing that vulnerability on a large platform would give me, more confidence to share and maybe do something good with it. And so, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so, I started to do that. Like, I've had a crazy journey, and like even 7 years ago, I had like a huge weight loss story, and it was like nationally recognized. So wild, but it was like I had broken my leg and like gone through 2 like pregnancies. And so, overcoming just internal battles and mental health and special needs is just the mental health portion, and the suicide awareness is super important to me as equally, because people can get to such a breaking point and they don't know. I think hearing the other stories and hearing what is available to them could save a life. And so, if I can touch even one person, I mean, I've received hundreds and thousands of messages from women I've never met. They're like, thank you for sharing this today. Like, it could be a quote or something. I just share a video. They're like, not enough people do this. And so I'm like, okay, if it's even one person I've touched, I'm going to continue doing this. And so, I mean, I've been super overwhelmed. I posted, I posted a couple videos that are like, semi-viral, because viral is like 34 million nowadays. But,
Right.
And it's amazing how people are quietly suffering, and they'll reach out and they'll share like a long story. And I'm like, wow, I would have never known, because you never, some people I know, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they don't have that in them to go out there and be open. And that's okay. That's totally okay. But I'm going to use my story to make sure other people know, like there is options out there. And so, I could have easily, like this last year, I'm telling you, like it was a very dark place, and I had a lot of people super worried. I mean, I am very confident that, I am not, in a place where I would make a bad decision. But when you get to that dark place, it's like you really have to come to grips with, what else do I have in my life that's positive, to try and break out of the dark, to be like, okay, what can I be grateful for? I have family, I'm healthy, etc. I mean, I have a job, I have a roof over my head. And so it's just like, I'm like, this is a really bad situation I'm in. And so, I mean, honestly, I got a phone call one day, and it was this woman through a social worker, and she was like, we have a spot for Ford. And it was like kind of my rope. And I think it was like an answered prayer. But we're like, we have a crisis home available. And so I think at that point I was just like, this is really an opportunity to regain, healing. And then, so this is the time now that I'm like kind of reliving it through talking about it on podcasts and whatnot, but that's okay. So as long as, I can keep talking about it and people hearing about it, that they can know that there is some good to bad, like my story. So, and there's such like a stigma around mental health, and people don't want to talk about it. And so I'm like, I'm going to talk about it all day, like it makes you uncomfortable. You don't have to listen. But, if we don't talk about it, and, they have a higher suicide rate for men. I don't know if you guys know that. It's like very significant. But it's just the suffering that I just want to talk about, because, it's applied in all aspects of my life. And so, I've gotten out of all of them. So,
yeah, I think it's super important to talk about. I think, like you said, if it makes some people uncomfortable, fine. But if you can talk about things like that, and it could change one life, help
Save
one
one
person.
life. That's what I was thinking.
That's all.
Exactly.
That
It's worth
matters.
it.
Yeah.
100%. And I've gotten a couple very deep messages where I'm like, you know what? I did my job. So if there's a woman that's suffering from PTSD, like I had significant PTSD. And so it was just like, wow, like that, like God's using me in other ways, my story. And so, you know, I decided 2 years ago, I helped somebody else write a book before, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it too. And one day I'm going to try and like use that to, you know, help other people. But like when my former husband died, I had this come up in my brain. We had somebody else commit suicide right outside our front door 2 days later. I don't talk about this a lot at all. I'll write about it in my book. But my son, who doesn't speak, you know, found this body outside my front door. And it was like we were already dealing with. And it was just like this dark cloud that was like going over us. And it was just like, it was kind of like I was having an out-of-body experience, because it's like one thing after another. And it's like, this could not be real right now. But that applies to a lot of people in life. And if, you know, they say like bad things come in threes or whatnot, or when it rains, it pours. But I mean, it's that's very true. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen like one after another. And that's kind of what I went through. But
That is wild.
Yeah.
And with
yeah.
with every hardship, do you think it's made you stronger each time?
Yes, I do. Because I don't think I'd be here, honestly. And I think it really molds your character and how you will offer other things in life to other people as well. Whether it's advocacy, whether it's like, you know, being a mentor to somebody, just setting a positive example, you know, that's kind of what I'm just always trying to promote.
For sure, because
Yeah.
growing up, I'll just be honest, I didn't really deal with anything that hard.
Yeah.
Like nothing in my life was hard.
Yeah.
I grew up in the suburbs in a nice house, both parents together, had like played sports. I just really didn't deal with anything. And in the last 10 years, I've dealt with some very heavy shit. And I feel like some of these like life-changing things that have happened to me or that I've been part of or witnessed, the perspective I've gained from it, I've gotten this strength where it's almost like you don't ever want a young child or a young person or anybody to go through something hard. But like the reality is, like, if you live a full life, there's going to be so many hard things. And like, against like some of these hard things, they're horrible, but the strength that you can gain from them for the rest of your life. Like I think of your daughter, like how she wants to be a psychologist. Like I don't think anybody should have gone through half the things that your daughter's gone through, but she's already gaining this strength to help people for the rest of her life. I just think there's some type of beauty in that. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but
No, yeah.
in the worst things that could ever happen in life,
Yeah.
like we might have the best psychologist ever coming out of this. Do you know?
Well, totally. Props to Shannon Curry.
Yeah.
She's the best.
But yeah, I just went on a rant there. But that's just kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like, again, I didn't deal with any hard things. And now that I've dealt with hard things that I didn't even know I can get out of, now I'm on the other side. It's like, okay, I see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now when you go through hard things again, you see the light. Even though it's not fully visible, you know it's there.
I find it would be unusual for me to see somebody who had like everything perfect in their life and they have no tragedy, they have no illness, they have nobody close to them that suffered. I mean, that would be very highly unlikely, but when it's going to happen in your life, you know, that's up to God. But it's just like you guys look at the podcast you guys created and what you're doing with your nonprofit. Like you utilize these experiences and things that you go through, whatever suffering, you know, you or somebody close to you went through, and trying to make good of it. You know, it's just, like I said before, it kind of like molds who you are, you know, and I don't know what you went through, but I had a great childhood too. And it's like, wow, like that was a real eye opener. You know what I mean? Like, didn't see that one coming. You know, just, you know, we went to my former husband, we went to rival high schools, and, as a cheerleader for his football team, it was like perfect on paper. And then, he battled mental health problems, and it's like, but everything was perfect. And then, there was I won't get into like the addiction and all that stuff, but, it's amazing, like how overnight your life completely changed. And so with that being said, I have had to kind of like learn, like, you got to be grateful for everything, like no matter what, you could have the world on your shoulders and then the next day get in a car accident or something happens. It's like all taken away, and you really get perspective on life. And, there's a lot of, I've been really humbled. And so there's a lot of people in like living in Orange County, like, Orange County's changed since I grew up there. And I feel like a lot of people are really, they take so much for granted, but they don't appreciate, the importance. A lot of people that I've seen, it's like more ego and more, they're driven by what they can get and status and all of that. And none of that really matters at the end of the day. What matters is family. What matters is your health, what you're doing, how are you contributing to a positive like life for yourself and others. Like that's how I look at it. And so I'm not driven by money. When I was working with like different people at different status, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm traveling, I'm interviewing this person after you. And I'm like, you know what? Life, you have like these significant things that happen in your life and you're like, oh my God, like none of that matters anymore, And so you just, you take a step back and you're like, okay, I'm going to reevaluate, I'm going to reassess, and I'm going to pivot and my perspective and then what I'm doing with my life. And so, I've talked on panels before about business. And so when I came on today, I'm like, let's talk about more about like mental health. Let's talk about things that we are like do good things, I mean, I could talk about business and making money and what we can do to, monetize, but
It's not as important.
no,
Exactly.
that's why I'm
None
like,
of that matters if we're not here.
yeah. And it's funny. I did speak on like a women's panel, like was it like a year or two ago, and it was all business driven. And then they asked me a personal question, and then the autism came up, and everyone came up to me after, and it wasn't even about the core of what, I built. It was like, wow, my cousin, my grandson, my daughter, like is suffering from this. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm like, wow, like I need to do more of this. And I really wish celebrities and personalities and people out there that have the following and have the platform would utilize that, not to as much get a following. It's like, get your message out there. Like how can you use your story? Open up, like you share that you had a family member that suffered from this maybe. I mean, it's not that easy to do, right? But that's what I wish.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is when you start sharing, you realize it's not so rare, or people realize, it's like people are going to listen to this and be like, I would have never known what Tiffany went through, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe they know you for one thing on Instagram, but now they know you for this other thing.
Totally.
Right? And I think that's the beauty of being open.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's easy for some people to be open. Like I can share my brother, but in high school, a lot of my friends didn't really know I had a brother.
Yeah.
Because he was always at home. I never talked about him. It wasn't easy for me to share back then. I think nowadays it's easier to share, but even sharing on social media, like, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that will say negative things and be mean. And I feel like it's not easy for everyone to share.
Yeah.
But your example of you sharing, me sharing a little bit, us doing what we're doing with Spread Good and spreading all this positivity and this good message, I think it's just motivating to continue.
Yeah. I would have never known you had a brother with Downs, and then I saw the photos. I'm like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
But, my daughter, it's very sad because as a child too, you're all worried about being judged, and it's like a part of growing up, insecurities and whatnot. And so, my daughter just didn't even want me to pull up to the, school with him half the time. And it's not to say anything bad about her, but it's just, you don't know how to process it. Other children at that age, and he's freaking out in the car. It's like, how do you even explain that to another child? So, breaking the stigma of mental health and breaking that, promoting inclusion in schools with kids with disabilities, that's super important as well. Because when we grew up, it was like this like foreign thing. We didn't talk about it. The special needs kids went to one class. They didn't even have special needs schools back then. My son's in a special needs school right now, but now there's more awareness, and they didn't really have a diagnosis of autism back in the day. I mean, they had the psychiatric hospitals back then. Now they're all shut down, and they've, gone into group homes, as you know. But it's just this it was like a foreign, weird stigma. People just didn't talk about it. So now I'm like, I'm going to talk about everything. Talk about suicide awareness, mental health. I'm going to talk about special needs advocacy. Like, I'm going to put it all out there. So
yeah, it helps break the stigma. I think, as a kid, when I was with my brother, a lot of people would always look at him like, oh, what's wrong with that guy?
Yeah.
They didn't know, nobody knew about Down syndrome, at least where I was from. So breaking the stigma, I think, is really important. And you sharing what you've been through, the mental health aspect, I think it's all super important. And I'm just very, very inspiring that you are so positive and sharing so much. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I recently I saw a couple celebrities that had shared that they had children with special needs. I was like, good for you. I'm like, I almost want to reach out to him and be like, let's do something with this. Let's keep this message going. I mean, to know that this is a not such a small world. It's a huge world. Like, millions of people are affected by this. And so just the more you talk about it, and I'd watched a show with Dr. Phil years ago, and there was 3 different parents on there interviewed for children with very high significant needs. And one of them was interviewed from prison because she had tried to actually take her and her child's life because she was so desperate. She had no help. She was in a van. She was going to try and go to sleep with gas in the car. Unbelievable story. I mean, I cried watching it, but it's that really sad world that nobody can relate to. It's almost out of this world. And I just pitched my story to a documentary team. We'll see if they pick it up. There's a couple special needs ones that have been recently done with caretakers, and there's one Joni McCarthy did, but then that's highlighting the high spectrum. And so, like I said, the low spectrum just doesn't get enough attention. Or, there's so much praise with they say Einstein and Da Vinci and all these people had high functioning, but I don't care about the Elon Musk and all. It's okay, let's help the other side, So, but so just community and bringing awareness is just, I'm super excited to be here and talk about it.
Yeah, no, this is great.
I could talk for hours about it.
I love this. And out of, all the tough times, you spread so much good. And you talked a little bit about, spending quality time with your daughter. We saw you recently. You went and saw Taylor Swift?
Yeah, we're Swifties.
Are you Swifties?
Yeah.
Well, we're Swifties too, for the record, even though...
I saw that the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm coming on and I'm representing my Swiftie fan base.
So it's so funny because it has over 1 million views now, right? And it's just gone crazy, and we're people aren't happy with us. But funny, if you watch the podcast... The reason why we brought that up is we were talking about bucket list people we'd like to have on the podcast, and we were talking about Taylor Swift.
Oh.
And that was just one moment of conversation, but we just love how social media can
We got a lot of
things
hate
up.
over that.
Oh, you guys definitely spice it up. I was like, oh God, how do I even approach the Taylor Swift Eras tour? Because let me tell you, we were on the floor, and I was like, it was the most amazing experience. And you guys, I cannot even start to tell you. I was in the middle of trial on Zoom. I don't know if I can say this, but I was like, okay, break time. And I was like, oh my God, is this anybody? And one of my best friends, Diana, she's a sports agent. She used to work with Kobe and everything. She's like, I'm side texting. I'm like, do I do the Eras tour? Kennedy, my daughter, she's a huge Swiftie. And I'm like, I want to do something that's going to impact her. We'll never stop talking about. I mean, you guys, we'll talk about this to the day we're dead, because okay, so long story, I'm just jumping around, but I got the tickets online like 3 hours before the concert, you guys.
wow.
Somebody had like canceled their tickets. I don't know. I was like, I sold a kidney to go. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be paying that off for a long time. But so I got the floor seats, and then I literally I like changed clothes. I didn't even, everyone's planning their outfits for I don't even know how long.
Long time.
Yeah. So I was like, oh God, okay, I got this. I got my glitter boots, whatever. So my daughter and I go, and it's like, from the moment you walk in, it's like such a great experience of like supporting like positivity. Like there's no fight. It's definitely different than like, I mean, nothing against Beyonce, but you have a different vibe. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like people are just so loving and warm and happy and just good vibes. And so, we get there, and it was incredible. And her music is just, I don't know. So
Yeah, our song is my
which is your song?
our song.
Oh, your song.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the song.
That's great.
High school all day. What's your favorite
Nice.
T-Swift song?
I don't even know.
Oh,
I don't want to
Swiftie.
talk about Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, 'cause-
I might get attacked.
Yeah, we got canceled for like 2 weeks, so we're back. We're back.
Yeah,
Thanks to Tiffany.
and I'm
because
here. I'm
We
representing
have a real
the
Swiftie.
Swifties.
See?
I am.
See, it's legit.
Yeah.
My daughter, my oldest daughter, my 4-year-old, she'll be singing it all day. She loves Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Taylor Swift. Sorry.
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. It's great. It's great.
All of my daughter's like Christmas gifts, she wants like T Swift, like sweatshirt, T-shirt, and I'm like, more albums. I'm like, okay. We have like the whole room now. It's dedicated to her. So I'm like, okay. And my boyfriend, he's a daughter in the same grade as my daughter, and they're both Swifties. So he's become a Swiftie dad, and I'm like, oh, it's like
Nice.
yeah. So we're big on it, but she's, honestly, I think she's as big as like Michael Jackson was when we were children. Do you guys
sure,
remember?
for
Like,
sure.
I know how old you are. I'm 43.
I'm around the same.
Okay.
I'm 39.
32.
But she's a billionaire now, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, she's just a completely genius, not just from her artistic, sense or, her music and her songs, but it's like business wise, like how she's actually created this empire, and, just so much respect.
Well, my thinking about Taylor Swift is like she was it 15 years ago when I was in high school.
Yes.
And she's still it now, and she's still young. Like that's what's so crazy about it. It's not like she's like Cher or like Michael Jackson. If Michael Jackson was here, like she's still in her prime. And I feel like she
Yeah.
was like in her prime when I was in high school.
She
It's
was
like-
quiet for a little bit because I
Yeah.
think she I think you have to kind of not reinvent yourself, but like Justin Bieber did it too. And when you're in the music industry, I mean, she's had consistent fan base on and on for years, but it's a matter of, when you're going through, life changes and stuff. I mean, she was consistent with music, but she did like this, I'm not gonna say comeback, but it's just like a signal.
Huge.
Oh my God, you guys, there wasn't an empty seat in the house. And I mean, if you're taking your daughter to the documentary, it's literally like a concert.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's very fun. People are dancing on the side and stuff.
That's amazing. So with that being said, who do you think is the most consistent artist over the last decade?
Consistency. Oh my gosh. I
Who
don't
stayed?
even.
Because I agree. I feel like people stay in the A-list scene for a year to 3 years and then they disappear. And then they
Like
come
Justin
back.
Timberlake disappeared,
Yeah.
and
I
like
feel like-
Beyonce, or like,
Jason Derulo.
Lady Gaga. She was
Yeah.
hip and then she disappeared.
And then she was doing a lot of acting.
Yeah,
Right.
she did do acting too. And then there's just, a lot of rappers. I feel like, I don't know, like, I feel like, there was Diddy, and then there was like, there's a lot of people who've seen, I think, the people who've been consistent, Jimmy Buffett, or like, the old school guys, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I mean, U2 is still touring. Have you guys seen that at the Sphere in Vegas?
That's nuts. I still have.
It's insane.
Do you guys remember when they sent everybody their music on the iPhone?
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
have it. So
yeah.
I have it. It plays in my car all the time because it's on there. They did this thing, what was it, like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Where they sent everybody their album.
Oh,
so it made
really?
it look like you bought their music, but you didn't really buy their music. So I have this U2 music.
Yeah, I've never bought any music, but it's on my phone.
Exactly, yeah.
It's the only thing on my phone.
It's crazy. Yeah, did you hear about that?
No.
Oh, yeah, I also had the U2 iPod in like 5th grade. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, I
It was
had
a
an
black-
iPod.
It was a black and red iPod.
I had a BlackBerry too, and I had one of the Switch things, the old school phones. The Kick.
The Kick, yeah.
So, yeah.
That thing is still cool, I think. But no, the reason I asked that is because I was listening to the radio on the way to the office the other day, and they were talking about Drake. If you think
He's
about
been around.
he's been around, but every year he's got hits.
Yeah.
He hasn't taken a break. So supposedly he's supposed to be like retiring or taking a break in the next year. But like, man, can you believe that? Like
He's been
15,
consistent,
20
yeah.
years, hits. Like,
Yeah.
like it's wild.
I mean, you could be like Mariah Carey, who has like the same Christmas songs every year. Like she goes into hiding and she comes out. She's like, "Oh, I'm back." You know what I mean?
It's about to start playing all over the radio again.
It's, for real.
All the ads with
It's
her
actually a
coming
great,
out.
great business model.
Yeah.
That just come out during the holidays
Yeah,
every year.
every year.
Wow.
Yeah, she makes a ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah. But what about you, Nick? Consistent artist?
I think Drake is.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because I've never like coined myself a Drake fan. I don't not like him, but I've
Yeah.
never like bumped Drake. I've been bumping Drake the last few months. He's got some good stuff. Like,
Drake's good.
yeah, like now I'm blanking. Not God's Plan, but the what's the really popular song about Started from the Bottom?
Oh, yeah, Started
That's
from the
like
Bottom.
10 years old now. I thought that was a couple years old.
Yeah.
It's like we're just continuing to grow up with the music.
Yeah.
But anyways, Tiffany, seriously, thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
We've
of
had a
course.
blast. We're inspired, and
Yeah.
we thank you for being so vulnerable.
That
with us.
wasn't like a downer with all.
No.
I was trying to.
It's good. It's needed because
Yeah.
that's what this whole platform is
Yeah.
about, is being real.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a better place right now, and that's just what I'm trying to get out there with, and you know,
I love it.
Yeah.
Where can people find more about you and what you're up to?
on my Instagram at Tiffany Sumner.
Oh yeah, we got
Yeah.
an editor.
Okay. And then, yeah, so that's good for now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us. If you liked what you heard, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and
Smash the bell.
be sure to keep spreading good. Follow Tiffany, and we'll see you next time.